Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and today I've got some top 8 deck lists for you from a 88 player event that took place on the 21st of April, the Easter Enchanted Bonanza from Belgium. There's been a lot of events in Germany recently that we've covered. There are actually a few events over the weekend, and I could have easily combined this top 8 with another event, but I've been super busy lately. I'm leaving for Germany in about 24 hours. I am starting my trip to Germany for a few days, and I'm going to be competing in the Ravensburger tournament over the weekend, which I'm really excited for. But I've had loads to do in the lead up to that, and I've still got to pack and do 100 things, but I wanted to get out this video looking at some top 8 deck lists. This will be the last top 8 deck list video until next week. However, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that tomorrow before I leave I'll be uploading an interview, fingers crossed, and I'm definitely going to be scheduling a video to release at just after midnight on the 25th UK time. It'll be the evening of the 24th if you're in America. But yes, I'm trying to make it so that there is some content over the channel while I'm away, but I'm super looking forward to my trip, and I get to play, which is a very rare thing. But yeah, this was an 88 person event, big old pool of data, so we're going to jump in. A shout out to the channel sponsor Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, then check out Cardmarket. But let's look at some top 8 deck lists. As you'll have already noticed, no lair today, just to make the editing process a bit quicker for me. So jumping into first place, WCC Justin. I think this might be world-class cards. Either way, shout out to Justin, the one and only Emerald Steel discard for this event, and it went all the way to first place, touted as one of the decks that gained a lot from the bans, looking like it was going to be very strong, and here we see it taking first place. So let's go through it. Of course, we've got the Diablo engine, 4 copies of the 1-drop that allows you to look at your opponent's hand on play, and of course our Floodborn, 3-cost uninkable 2/2, quest for 1, shift by discarding an action, evasive, and during your opponent's turn, whenever they draw, you draw. This is an absolute must answer if they don't have the evasive characters, or things like Steel, Let the Storm Rage On, or Ruby's Brawl. Then this Diablo can absolutely run away with the game and is one of our primary draw engines. We are also running 2 copies of the Clarabelle Light on her hooves. At the end of your turn, draw up to the amount of cards that your opponent has in their hand. No shift line. Well, there is a shift line. We're running 4 copies of Morph, but no copies of the 1-drop Clarabelle to shift this on top. But I think just running 2 copies of this big Clarabelle is fine. If you're going to run these 4 Morph, which synergize, of course, with the Diablo, but you're going to get a hell of a high roll from the 4 copies of Tragic Hero Beast. Of course, we can shift this on 3, which is pretty good at the start of your turn. If you have no damage, if there's no damage on him, you draw an extra card, and if there is damage, he becomes a 7/5 beat stick. Also 3 copies of the new Dual Link Pete Space Pirate, becoming something of a staple in these Emerald Steel decks. Really good while he's exerted. Your pirates get resist, and your opponent can't exert to sing songs. There's a few decks that are really going to dislike that, and just a big bulky body that quests for 2. Not to mention, of course, running 4 copies of the game's referee Pete to stop our opponent playing action. So a couple of shift targets for this big boy Pete. 1 copy of that Pluto Guard Dog. He's a 5/5 when he's got no damage, and of course a bodyguard. He's a very good boy, is this Pluto, at a 4 cost. Protecting our Ursula, our Muses, which are also here. 2 copies of the Muses. When you sing a song, you can bounce a character of 2 strength or less. This can be your own characters, could be value to getting back your Ursula 2-drop, or maybe you want to quest with Prince John, or you need him to sing something, and then we can bounce him back to our hand to keep him safe. And of course, if we're bouncing our opponent's characters, then great. And 4 copies of that Ursula Deceiver of All, who double sing songs, so we got a potential double Storm Rage On, double Strength, double Sudden Chill for that discard. Also running 4 copies of Hypnotize for the discard, and of course the Prince John, greediest of all. Whenever your opponent discards a card, you draw a card. 2 copies of Zeus for some removal, and 2 copies of We Don't Talk About Bruno, also removal plus discard. I think it's important to have these things like Bruno and or Zeus. You still want to be able to answer. There's some big Tamatoa still in format, not a lot. Shark really, I think, is the most must answer character, but a lot of characters that you would like to immediately remove fall into this range. So Zeus really good, and of course Bruno being inkable and also can double up as discard, super good. I think Emerald Steel is fairly well positioned. There's an uptick in Ruby Amethyst, which traditionally doesn't have a great matchup into Emerald Steel. I'm expecting to see a lot more Steel Song, which isn't as great of a matchup for Emerald Steel. It just depends really who gets their stuff online first. But nonetheless, this has been an incredibly powerful deck for a while. Has retained the same basic shell, with this Pete being the only real new addition to the deck from set 7, but still doing it really, really well. So congratulations to Justin. Going into second place, we have the first of 3 Ruby Amethyst lists to look at, which of course I'm a big fan of, although all 3 of them, interesting to say, not really the stock builds that we've come to know and love. Obviously there's parts of the list that are very cookie cutter, but all of these Ruby Amethyst lists are making adaptations to the meta. So let's start with the usual sort of stuff. We've got 8 1-drops prioritizing the Chernobog and the Brooms. I would always like Diablos in here, to be honest, but these are still good 1-drops. We're seeing 4 copies of that Lumiere, who gives +1 strength to all your characters. We saw this do very well at the recent Battle Bear tournament, which was taken down by DKP and his Ruby Sapphire DK Shark list, but his opponent was on Ruby Amethyst rocking these Lumieres, and they can be really annoying for the big Sisus that are still in format. Like a lot of the Ruby cards, Medusas, Brawls, you're gonna mess with that. Keep things out of the range of things like Muses, and of course just giving you better challenges. So I like the addition, running 3 copies of Fox and 2 Crab. I don't mind 3 Fox, but I think Crabs are so good. But of course it makes sense in this list when you're gonna opt to not play Diablo. But with this build being the evasive version, you've got to find your room somewhere, and so I suppose it makes sense because really on turn 3, a lot of the time I think you want to prioritize getting down this Peter Pan Shadow Finder. There's a 3-cost uninkable, 2/3 quest for 1, Rush, Evasive, and your characters with Evasive gain Rush. Elsevith Spirit here already has Evasive and Rush, but we're of course running 4 copies of the big bad Maui Shark with Evasive. When he challenges a character, you get to put an action back into your hand from your discard, and whenever you play an action, you are gaining 1 lore. That part of the ability isn't going to happen that much. Like it will, there are plenty of actions here, but this is just great to be able to slow down, check the opponent's board, threaten being able to get back these actions, and of course combined with Peter Pan Shadow Finder, we may be able to get a challenge off out of nowhere. 4 copies of the Genie in here as well, also going to get that rush from Peter Pan being on the board. And we're still seeing 2 copies of Merlin Rabbit, so we're not leaning all the way into that draw engine, but it's nice to have these rabbits for the mirror match, and like when you're up against the more control-y, grindier builds, you want the rabbits to be able to outgrind them. The Genie's obviously drawing you a card is great, but the cards that can be created from rabbits can't really be matched, so I like there still being a couple of copies in here, and 1 copy of this Iago Giant Spectral Parrot, who's been growing in popularity. Just a big, bulky 4/6 body, really hard for a lot of decks to be able to answer. That Vanish keyword makes it suck against Steel, and some Emerald decks are teching in things like Improvise, and I've even seen a couple of Amethyst lists playing, is it Hypnotic Deduction, the Amethyst 1-cost action where you give strength +1 strength to a character and you draw a card, something like that. It gets rid of this Iago. It's coming up on the screen right now. But yeah, this Iago, just a big bulky body, and of course another evasive character that can benefit from the Peter Pan Shadow Finder. Just 2 copies of Maui in here is probably fine. Seems low to me. Maui still feels like a character that quite often you're really digging for, especially against locations. 2 copies of Medusa is our Lady of Choice, which I think makes a lot of sense. There's still some Sapphire out there, but really we play Tremaines for the big Tamatoas. They're nice to have against things like Shark, but we have other answers to Shark. We can play Elsa and then challenge it with something in combination with Crab, or just having our own Shark on the board and then exerting theirs down with Elsa. So there's ways to deal with that, but things like big Tamatoa just gotta go. Of course, we've got the 3 Be Prepared, but with Sapphire decks seemingly being less popular and there being an uptick in Emerald Steel, Steel Song, Amethyst Steel, then there's a lot of really juicy targets for this Medusa, so I like this. Only 3 copies of Brawl I agree with as well. I still think it's a necessary card, but before Flavisham was banned, some people were trying to lower their counts of Brawl, and I was saying I think just Flavisham alone is enough reason to want to have to play 4 because it's a must answer. Diablo is still a must answer, but we have other ways of hitting Diablo. in the early game, of course, with that Peter Pan at Shadow Finder, so I don't mind a lower count. They're still nice to have against the aggro decks or to pop off an aerial or something, and of course they work well with Shark, but yeah, I think 3 copies is fine. And 1 copy of Finders Keepers, another card upticking in popularity for the Amethyst decks, just 5 cost, draw 3 cards. This deck already with a lot of ways of drawing cards, but if you can find a turn off to play this Finders Keepers, then all baby. 4 copies of Friends, of course, 2 copies of Pirate's Life, of course, working really well with the Maui Shark, 3 B Prep, 3 Library, and 1 copy of that Queen's Castle. 4 cost inkable, 1 to move there, 7 willpower, 2 passive lore, and at the start of your turn, if you have a character at the Queen's Castle, you draw a card. I quite like the cheeky one of the Queen's Castle, and I like the 3 Library. I would just like to see Diablos in here. Like, Bogs and Brooms still obviously work really well with the Library, like arguably better in some situations, but I don't know, I'm just super high on Diablos. Nonetheless, looking really good. 3 copies of Sisu in here as well, despite not having a shift target, which I absolutely agree with. If you're not going to play the Floodborn, I think 3's a great amount of Sisu. It's still just such a well-statted 3-cost character questing for 2. So yeah, I really like this. A lot of Ruby Amethyst players trying out this evasive package version of the deck, which has seemingly been doing really well, so I would expect to see a lot more of this. Definitely gives you a better matchup into Emerald Steel. Like, we still don't like having to discard cards. But if we have more ways of getting around the Diablo, which is a big part of it. I think this version of the deck would probably have a slightly better Steel Song matchup compared to, like, stock RP. Ruby Amethyst Steel Song, I think, has always been a little bit 50-50. It kind of comes down to how many of the B-Preps can you make them wheel away, and do you have Pete's at the right time? With the Sharks, of course, if we do throw away B-Preps, we have avenues to be able to get them back, and with Peter Pan as well, like, potentially out of nowhere. We still need to be wary of Pete, but we have the Medusas as another way to kind of control the board, and of course Elsa, so I feel like the Steel Song matchup would probably be okay. So yeah, this looks really nice. Congratulations to them. In top 4, we've got another Ruby Amethyst list. Locations. Look at this spice. We're running 3 copies of the Library, 3 copies of Queen's Castle, and 2 copies of Jim Hawkins' Space Traveller. 5 cost inkable, 4/4, quest for 2. When you play this character, you may play a location with cost 4 or less for free, and whenever you play a location, this character may move there for free. That's a really nice tempo turn. If you can on turn 5 put down Jim and a location, that's a lot to expect the opponent to answer, especially if they've not been able to build up much of a board. I miss seeing Jim Hawkins, man. I think he's such a fun card. And his time in Ruby Amethyst, I think, was so short-lived. So this is great to see. We're seeing 4 copies of that big Iago Spectral Parrot, 4 copies of the Peter Pan Shadow Finder, the 4 copies of Mao. We've got that whole evasive package in here. But we're also playing 4 copies of Pegasus, the 2-cost evasive 3/1. I ran these Pegasus at an event I went to a couple of weeks ago, like a few days after the Flavisham ban, with the intention of just wanting to beat the bird. And they were super good. And like, even just to be able to boost Crab boost and then go into an exerted Shark. Obviously not great against Steel, but yeah, all in on this evasive package, which you love to see. Just 4 copies of Chernobog's Followers. I'm not actually mad about less 1-drops nowadays in Amethyst decks, which may sound crazy, but if I manage to get this interview up tomorrow with a Blurple extraordinaire, JDRR, then he's got a lot to say about the Amethyst 1-drops, which is very interesting. But we see 4 copies of Chernobog here, and 1 copy of Queen of Hearts, Impulsive Ruler, 2-cost inkable 2/2, with Rush. Certainly going to punish a Cinderella or a Bog or a Broom that turned sideways thinking it was safe. No rabbits in here, just the 4 Genie, 4 Maui Hero to All, I love. 2 copies of Tremaine. I just had this conversation about how I think Medusa is a little bit more online at the moment, but Tremaine is still really nice to have. And we're seeing 4 copies of Maleficent Monstrous Dragon. When you play this character, you may banish chosen character. I got to admire it. And I'm missing Maleficent Monstrous Dragon in Ruby Amethyst. Hey, if you are in those grindy, long, control-based matchups, then these Maleficents are going to come in as super handy, because they are an answer to everything outside of Ward. Like we talk about being able to answer Sharks and things like that with this evasive package or whatever, but Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, just a popper guy. Interesting to note, no Elsa 5th Spirit in here, who I think is really strong at the moment. I wasn't so high on her last set. I think I was actually one of the first players to like really start going off of 5th Spirit Elsa, but at the moment I think she's super strong. We are seeing those 4 copies of Finders Keepers in here. It just allows you to ink them more freely and assure that you're going to find more. 4B prep, 1 Pirate's Life. I really like this list. Again, I think the lack of 5th Spirit is a bit questionable. I would prefer to see Diablos as the 1-drop. I don't know if Jim Hawkins is optimal, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great high roll and is a good card. And the 4 Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, hey, again, against a more aggro deck, they're not going to be great. But in the mirror, they're going to be super good. Against Blurple, Ruby Sapphire, anything where the game's going long, then of course this is going to be a great card to have. So absolutely love to see it. Congratulations to them. And our final Ruby Amethyst list from this event. We have another evasive package, 2 copies of Pegasus, 3 of the Shadowfinder, 2 Iago, just 3 copies of the Maui Half Shark. Actions to complement the Shark, 4 Brawl, 2 Keepers, 2 B Prep, 4 Friends of course. And then we're seeing 2 copies of Dragonfire, which I really like if you're going to run Shark. I think this is a perfectly acceptable action to include in your deck. And 2 copies of Magical Maneuvers with the worst fairies. 2 cost inkable action, return chosen character of yours to your hand, exert chosen character. So I think this is him in the deck more than anything for Iago, who, as we've already seen, is growing in popularity. There are a couple of quite cute actions which we can use to get rid of him, and here is one of them. And even if it's not an Iago, exerting opposing characters is good. Returning characters to our hand is good with these rabbits, goats, or just keeping characters safe. This is probably the most we've lent into the bounce package of the Ruby Amethyst list we've looked at today, with 3 Snake and of course maxing out on the rabbits. 3 copies of the Queen of Hearts, who I really like at the moment, with Steel Song and Emerald Steel seeming like they're going to be pretty popular. There was a point where I was just running 2 of these Queen of Hearts because I always said it's a really good card, but they're terrible to top. They're not great to draw into later on in the game. I think it's good on exactly turn 2, but it can be a really important card to want to see on turn 2, just to assure something is going to survive the storm or potentially even strength if you're on the draw, so that something's there for you to then crab boost preferably, or fox if you need to. So I really like the Queen of Hearts at the moment, and yeah, this Magical Maneuver's pretty cute. An answer for Iago which is not dead in any other matchup. Bouncing our own characters is good, exerting characters good. So I really like the look of this. Really interesting to note that, again, this was nearly 100 players and 3 of the top 8 deck lists being Ruby Amethyst and running this Shark Evasive package. Is this going to become the norm for Ruby Amethyst? We shall see, but nonetheless, congratulations to them. Going into top 4, we have the first of 3 nearly identical EA Tempo. Just play the bird. Then make them discard. That list is getting longer. Nearly completely identical, these 3 lists. So, yes, we are Emerald Amethyst, but leaning into this discard package. We've got a heavy bird Diablo line. We are able to run 4 copies of the Obedient Raven, 3 copies of Maleficent Spy, but also 4 copies of the Dual Link EA Spiteful Raven, who's a 2-cost inkable 1/2 quest for 1 with Evasive and Challenger 2. So lots of targets to be able to have on the board to assure that when we get this Diablo in action, we can play it immediately, or just increase the odds that we have it on turn 1, turn 2. Not just that, you can bait out brawls and evasive answers like Pegasus with this 2-cost Diablo, or even if you don't bait them and they do wait for you to shift a different Diablo and they brawl your Devoted Herald, then this Spiteful Raven is just sitting there questing, and being able to potentially challenge for 3 is pretty good. We have 2 copies of Prince John, and our ways of discarding are the 4 Ursula Deceiver, 4 Sudden Chill, 4 Hypnotize, and we're running 4 copies, and we don't talk about Bruno, which also doubles up as removal, of course. 3 copies of the Shadowfinder to be an answer to opposing Diablos, but also give rush to our evasives, like the 3 Genies and the 3 Iagos. A modest bounce package of just 2 Fox and 3 Crab, which I think is good, just to be able to have board response cards. Also 3 copies of Cricky, which is a great way to turn our small characters into big challenging beasts. 3 copies of that Improvise. I already mentioned some people playing some action specifically to answer the Iagos. This one allows you to chosen character gets +1 strength this turn and you draw a card, so you can get rid of an Iago and draw a card, or even if there is no Iago, sometimes this +1 strength is going to matter, and just drawing a card for a 1-cost character is fine. So yeah, it seems official. EA Tempo is just a discard deck now. But a deck like this shows you why so many decks are feeling the need to throw in this evasive package, because this is monstrous. So yeah, it looks super good. Congratulations to them. Also in top 8, we've got BP Yadup 1 with the exact same deck list. Congratulations to them. And then a final one from Yannick with just some different card counts. Only one copy of the Peter Pan Shadow Finder. And we've messed around with counts of Genie, Iago, and I think Hypnotize. So yeah, this particular build performing incredibly well at this event. Be scared of it. It will be around. Congratulations to them. And our final list of the day, we have Davey with some Ruby Sapphire DK Shark. This looks so similar to what DKP was recently playing. I know that one change is we've added in one copy of Maui's Fishhook, 3-cost inkable item. It's Maui time. If you have a character named Maui in play, then you can use the Shapeshift ability for free. And the Shapeshift ability is you exert and pay 2. You always have to exert. You can just potentially not have to pay the 2 if you've got a Maui on board. Chosen character gains evasive into the start of your next turn, or chosen character gets +3 strength this turn. Both incredible abilities to have. We're running a total of 8 Maui, so if we get this Fishhook down, odds are we're going to be able to use the Shapeshift part for free. We're running 2 copies of All Is Found, which was DKP's favourite card to ink every game I saw him play. It's a 5-cost inkable song. Put up to 2 cards from your discard into your inkwell, face down and exerted. So against the more aggressive decks, this is an extra way to assure that you can ramp quickly, build you towards your board clears like your Be Prepareds and your Sisus. Pirate's Life in here, of course, to complement the Maui, and just a low action package, a high action package in general of low cost cards for develop, for sale, for vision, for how far I'll go as another way of ramping and filtering to find key pieces, to let it go for removal, and of course 4 McDuck mana to create that 2-pronged attack. And just 1 copy of the Goofy with those super peanut powers. Now, when we covered the Battle Bear event, there were a couple of Ruby Sapphire lists in top card, but they were from DKP and Moyen, and I said, is this deck still alive and well, or are these players just really, really good at running this deck? But we see someone else taking a list very similar to DKP's to top 8 in what was, again, a large field. And personally, I'm glad to see that. I don't want Ruby Sapphire to completely disappear. I want to see Sapphire Steel be represented again. I'm optimistic. I think the Kiwi Bird version of Blue Steel is still good. But nonetheless, great to see some red-blue here. Congratulations to them. And that is it. So, quite a diverse top 8. Not the most diverse we've ever had. It would be nice to see some Steel songs, some Blurple, Blue Steel, but I do know there have been other events over the weekend where those decks were represented. I'm sorry I haven't had as much time to cover everything. But I'm definitely going to get this video out. Hopefully I'll get the interview out before I leave tomorrow night. And I've got some gameplay coming to the channel, as I mentioned, on the 25th. But yeah, that's about it. I'm really excited for the event over the weekend. If you are going to the Ravensburger event, please let me know down in the comments. And if you are going and you see me, do please say hello. I'd be honoured and delighted. Yeah, changing the subject completely for a moment. Anyone watching The Last of Us Season 2? Spoilers, so stop the video now if you don't want spoilers. I'm loving it. I think it's really, really good so far. I really, really enjoyed Season 1. Really, really enjoyed it. Love the games, and I love number 2 as a game as well. I'm not someone that hated on it. Yeah, it had its issues, but I love the entire story. I think just the way it was ordered was maybe not the way I would have done it, but I love the story. So I was super excited to see that come to Season 2. I love Abby immediately a lot more than I like her in the game. And that episode 2 in general was just really, really awesome. The things that they did change, like the big battle going on back at base with Tommy, etc., that was fantastic. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I just wanted to mention it. But that's going to be it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.